Hey guys, it's Jenna. Welcome back to my channel today. In today's video, we are going to be doing a full makeup test of the new Valentino Beauty line. You guys, I picked up quite a few items from this line. Not everything because they were so expensive, but I will tell you what I did pick up. So the first two items are the Rosa, this is all Italian by the way. Preface this video by I am not fluent in Italian and it's going to be very obvious. Rosa Valentino lipsticks. We have one matte and one satin. The next one is the Eye to Cheek dual use blush and eyeshadow. You can use that for either or. So this is the next one. You can see it's got really gorgeous packaging. I absolutely love that. The next thing I picked up is the Magnificent Striking Volume Mascara. This is for all day wear. And I do have both of the base products. We have the V highlighter. This is the Liquid Light Face Base and Top Coat. And we also have the Very Valentino Light Lasting Perfecting Foundation. Then we have the Color Flip. This is actually the eyeshadow component that they actually launched. It's called When in Roma. It's a multi-look eye palette, 2 bases, 4 colors, 2 top shimmers. Very, very interesting to see this one. And then we also have the Go Clutch powder and the Go Clutch bronzer. This is a very interesting one because I had to get the refill for this because the original packaging came in a really weird like purse thing. It was the powder and a lipstick combo. It was over $200. So I didn't really want to get a purse that had a powder in it. I don't know. Not my type of accessory, so I decided just to get the refill, and I'm gonna have to be careful with how I store something like that. So let's get started. All of this stuff was actually purchased from Selfridges. Randomly, I saw that they weren't shipping this line to the United States yet. I'm not sure if this has changed or not. I'm gonna try my best to do both currencies for all of the products, and then we'll go from there. But I'm going to basically start with how I would do my makeup normally. So let's start with the Color Flip eyeshadow products. This is When in Roma. This is the only eyeshadow palette that they have, like very heavily padded. You can see that. It's like black foam holding it in place. And then we have the compact here, which is actually really, really pretty. I will say packaging on this is much better. We will talk about other packaging, but this packaging is pretty good. Could it be better? Absolutely. It's definitely luxe, but it's not super weighty in the hand. I would say moderate weight. It does have the rock stud closure piece. So let's take a look. Okay, this is very interesting. Comes with, okay, that fell down, but it does come with 2 little brushes. You can see there's a little compartment for it. Very similar to the Tom Ford or the Chanel quads or the Dior even, that come with little brushes if need be. They're not the foam brushes. They do have little hairs on them. So that is very, very interesting. This is the top layer. We have a satin, a shimmer, a matte, and then a satin. So Rosso or Rosso is on the top left, bronze on the top right, Palazzo on the bottom left, Dusk on the bottom right. So let's swatch these because I'm super curious how it's going to go. Very creamy actually. You know what it reminds me of? The Chanel formulation actually. Kind of reminds me of the Chanel formulation. The shimmer here is really stunning too. It's very, very soft. That's kind of how it feels. The matte is creamy as well, and the satin beside that. So we do have this first top row here. So we'll see how this looks, and then we'll swatch the other side too, and then we'll see which ones we can apply to the eye. I'm gonna show you the bottom layer as well very carefully. This is actually how it works. So you can see that there's that little door here that swings the 2 quads together in this palette. Now, this base is cheap looking for sure. I actually prefer the red glossy plastic packaging versus in the base itself, which is this. This is what I'm talking about. This is extremely cheap feeling in my opinion. They could have continued with that really moderately weighted red glossy plastic, you know, just to add a little bit more luxe to this. So this is the next quad, and the top left is gold. It's a shimmer. Top right is called Pearl. It's a top shimmer as well. Then we have Poudre, which is the base, and Nero, which is the base. So it actually looks like what you can do is you can use those bottom shades as your base if you would like, or you can use your own base and you can just use those as shadow. Really depends on what you want. And then there's the two shimmers on the top row there. These are a little bit more textured than the top row. They're quite foiled actually, and there's quite a bit of kick up as I'm swatching them. Pigmented though, which I appreciate because this was very expensive. This palette is 100 American dollars, 121 Canadian dollars. So here we have these shades. They all perform for swatch. Really, really beautiful. That first gold is quite textured. The one beside it, which is pearl, is a little smoother, doesn't have as much texture, and the two bases are really smooth as well. You know when there's like monochromatic color stories, I feel like those are like the easiest. You can see looks really quickly and you can be like, this will be a deep shade, this will be the all over, there's a shimmer, you know? But this one jumps a little bit. There's a little bit of diversity amongst some of the shades there. The back of the box actually does let you know how to work with it. So it says, number 1, prep the eyelids with your base shadow of choice. They're wanting you to prime with one of these bottom rows. I have used my Smashbox just to smooth everything out, the Smashbox 24-hour eye primer. I always use that. For my look today, I'm going to pick up the beigey base, and I'm using my Smith 232. Now, this is quite smooth. It's applying really nice. Just doing windshield wiper motions. This isn't super perfect. We're just priming here over top of the Smashbox. Like I said, a little bit of kick up in the pan, but quite pigmented, which I appreciate. I'm not going to use the other base today, but that could be used easily as an eyeliner if you're interested in that. Now let's go to the next step. It says apply and blend up to 4 Valentino colors. So what he calls the colors are the top level. So all of the top level, those 4 are the colors. And then we've got the 2 shimmers and the 2 bases on the bottom row. So that's kind of interesting. So the colors, it says blend up to 4. There's only 4. Oh, I see what you did. So I wonder what I'm going to do next. I'm going to go in, I think, all over the lid. What should I do, guys? Should I do like a purpley look? I am wearing olive. Probably not the best. The best idea. I'll do the purple because it kind of goes. We'll do this shade and this shade. Maybe some of that other on the top, but I'm going to leave out pink for today for a different video, and I'll definitely test that one out later. The matte definitely does blend. I'll give it that. This shade is actually more patchy than I thought. I might try a synthetic brush as well and just see if that makes a difference. This is a natural hair brush. It's blending for sure, but on the initial application, it can get a little patchy, that's for sure. It might be the brush, so I'm gonna try a synthetic brush. This is the Luxie 231. The good news is that it does blend out really nicely, but if you were to wear this shade by itself, you would have to be quite careful to make sure it's actually even. I'm not really noticing too much of a difference between how the synthetic is picking it up versus the natural hairbrush. So now we've got the matte down, and the matte that I used was Palazzo. It's a little patchy. It's not perfect, not off to a good start. Let's see where we go from here. I think I'm gonna try the satin, the purple like we talked about. I'm gonna go in with the BK Beauty 207 for this, and I'm just gonna smoke it out on the outer edge. I'm not sure if these shades go together, guys. It looks very stark, you know what I mean? I'll keep playing with it. Okay. We're going to, I don't know what noise that was. I think it's because I'm extremely nervous on how this is gonna go. We're gonna go in with the shimmer. This is the bronze. Maybe it'll help. The bronze shade here is blending it all together, which I appreciate. I am applying with my fingertip. You can see that. It's sort of covering that really awkward warm brown at the beginning and just leaving it as a bit of a transition. So I'm gonna keep working with this. This is nice and smooth as well, but I'm gonna go in nice and close and just make sure everything is blended. So when I use this the second time, I think what I'm going to do is avoid using that matte shade unless it's for like its own smoke shade. I don't know, it just seems like quite dark for the rest of it. I feel like it should have been a little bit more of a lighter brown for this quad. I don't know, it just seems a little bit too deep for this. Like if this was a little bit lighter, it would have been so much better, I think. Because it was so dark, it just kind of scared me a little. And this could be because this eyeshadow is maybe more for like editorial like looks and not so much for the everyday gal. I don't know. I wouldn't be able to use all 4 shades together, that's for sure. I could definitely see myself using the bronze and the pink or the bronze and the purple. That'd be really, really easy. Or the bronze and the matte, that would be easy as well. But all 4 of them together is fairly difficult, I'll be honest. The last thing that I did do is I added a little bit of this top gold shade here. This is what the next step is, to add a touch of one of those shimmers if you would like. So the gold is called gold. The other one is the pearl. On the right side, it is the white. And I just dabbed my finger ever so gently and just placed it on the eye like this. You can see that it just glams it up super, super pretty. And there's a little bit of fallout with this one for sure. It's quite textured, a little bit flaky as well. So do be careful with that, but it's really, really stunning. Over top of that shimmer bronze, it just amps it up a little bit more. So I absolutely love that. I'm actually gonna go in with the base shade one more time with a fluffy brush and really try to blend out some of these edges, especially the purple. It looks a little stark on this side. So I'm just gonna blend it and soften it a little bit. But I really do think that first matte kind of messed everything up for me. It's just a tad too deep. And I just wish that it wasn't, you know. It was also on the patchy side, like I said, so I would use all the other shades, but the matte was a little bit disappointing. I've actually read a couple comments in the past of people saying like, oh, well, why does it matter if one shade is a dud? Because if the rest are fine, then it should be fine. Honestly, this is 8 shadows for 100 US, 121 Canadian. They should all be stellar. The rest of the shades though, they do perform well. The color story can be a little bit tricky for a beginner, but you can definitely make it work. I'm hoping I can save this look with some liner, and we're also going to try the mascara out. I did pick that up like I said, so I will just put liner on and then I'll be right back. Next, I want to talk about the mascara. This is the Magnificent Striking Volume Mascara All Day Wear. The shade I picked up is number 1 Ultra Nero. I think they're referring to Nero the Emperor, like the Roman Emperor. A lot of this is in Italian, so I wouldn't be surprised. Now, this is also where they cheaped out on the packaging. I was super, super disappointed as soon as I rolled this out. This is the same lightweight plastic packaging. Like, what a missed opportunity. This could have been like glossy like this. This part of the eyeshadow palette is the only like luxe part of the packaging so far. They could have made this super weighty. They could have maybe put the V like kind of outward with like really weighty gold. This mascara is 34 US or 41.50 Canadian, and it does feel super, super cheap. I always look super awkward applying mascara on camera. I don't know why, but I just can't do it otherwise, like any other way. It does seem to be lengthening a little bit, which is nice and separating. I wonder if it's because it's recyclable. It doesn't say that it is, but this whole line definitely has had that kind of element to think about. There's refillable pieces, so maybe that's why they decided with the packaging to make it what it is. That's my only other alternative theory, a very acceptable reason to make the packaging more lightweight and easier to recycle. It's definitely lengthening, I'll give it that. It's lifting a little bit and it's separating, but it's also clumping up now. So a few layers of this and that's all you'll need. You're not going to need too much or it is going to start clumping on you. It could just be that it's a fresh tube. That can tend to happen sometimes with that. I'm going to go a little bit lighter on this side. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's definitely clumping a little bit more than I would like. It's definitely not my favorite. The strength of it is the volumizing piece. It separates a little bit, but it can clump on you very, very quickly. And it does tend to have a sharper bristled wand. So when I was doing my bottom lashes ever so carefully, it would poke a little bit at my bottom lid and it was a little bit sharp. I do think you can absolutely skip this one when it comes to deciding what you want to pick up from the line. The next step for me is always the base. We're going to go with the primer next. This is the V Lighter. So it looks like this is a dual use liquid light face base and top coat. So what it's saying is you can use it dually as a primer or you can use it as a highlight or both, right? It just depends. So the shade in this is called Rosa as well. This is much, much better when it comes to packaging. I would say it's just like this one. I mean, this eyeshadow palette has a little bit of a downfall with the inner base, like I said, but keeping in mind the recyclability part, I'm going to be a little bit more forgiving with that. It does have a really beautiful frosted glass base. I'm going to be careful with priming my face with this in particular, just in case this is quite iridescent, and it actually is. So let's be very, very careful here, like next to none, because you're going to be lighting up pretty quickly. As you can see, it's definitely showing up on my skin already. This is very fragranced. I can already smell it off of my hand here. It smells like a sweet floral. It actually smells very similar to the Hermes blushes, if you're familiar with that. It's like a sweet floral smell. So that's all I'm really gonna do for my cheeks. I'm gonna do a touch on the forehead, just because this really is like a highlighting product. I don't know if I would do much more than a little bit of a light base all around. Like you can see, it's glowy. So I'm glad that we're going to put the foundation over top. I certainly wouldn't leave my skin like this. It does feel quite creamy in the hand. It also blended really nicely into the skin. You can see it is quite iridescent. So look at that. You can absolutely add to the high points of the cheek for a highlighting glow at the end or over top of the foundation easily, or you could even just use this as an illuminator because it is quite shiny. This primer is 56 American dollars or 64 Canadian dollars, just for reference. 25 milliliters in here, 0.84 fluid ounces. This is made in France, by the way, just so you guys know. The eyeshadow is made in Italy, and the mascara is made in France as well. So we've got a combination of different manufacturing sites all over Europe here. Let's get into the foundation. This is the Very Valentino Light Lasting Perfecting Foundation. There's an SPF 25. Packaging style, very similar to the primer. The only difference is the base is not frosted. It is just a plain glass bottle. But we have the same amount of product in here actually. So I do see a ton of foundations at a fluid ounce. This is not. This is just shy at 0.84 fluid ounces. And this one's also made in France. The shade that I picked up for this is LA3. I think I can make it work. So fingers crossed on that one. I might actually be able to make this work. Not as terrible as I thought. As I'm blending it in, I can definitely make it work. And it is a medium coverage, I would say. You guys know my foundation tip. I leave my forehead to the last, just so that I can get everything else nice and even, and it lets me raise my eyebrows up and down if I need to, so I don't cause any of that product to gather into my lines on my forehead. I did apply the entire base. This is a natural semi-matte finish. It says you're supposed to apply to the center of the face and blend outward. And the way to select the shade was really interesting. It says, first find the part of the shade name that matches your skin tone, light, medium, or deep. So it was that first. Then find the undertone, R for Rosa, N for Neutra, A for Ambra. So, I think I did light warm tones, which makes sense why it is a little bit warmer, but still I think acceptable. I don't think it's quite super off, but I think a neutral would have been the best. And then it says pick your intensity from 1 to 5. So it's very interesting. This foundation is the exact same price as the primer, by the way, and it makes sense. It's the same amount of product. 56 American, 68 Canadian dollars. Next, let's go to the powders. Now, it was weird. The powders came in what they call a Go Clutch face powder and lipstick bundle. I didn't really like this idea because it was basically like a built-in purse that you could put your powder in, and it was just big enough for the powder. Like, it had like a chain on it, and that's it. You couldn't fit anything else in this thing. It was just like a weird little accessory. So I do think it can be for some people, not for everyone, but you wouldn't just get the powder. You would get essentially an insert that looks just like this, but it has a chain. It looks very similar to the eyeshadow palette packaging. And then you would buy the refills. So I decided to just buy the refill, not the whole contraption, because there isn't an option to just get a powder packaging by itself without having that gold chain with the lipstick. So kind of interesting. The bundle I'm talking about is 215 American dollars, 260 Canadian dollars. There was no way that was happening. So the insert by themselves, 54 American or 65 Canadian dollars. So I did pick up the shade number 2 light for this powder. It is a soft matte radiance. That's what the finish is supposed to be. Now, this is the packaging I shared on my Instagram story is atrocious, but I think it goes to speak to the recyclability, hopefully. To powder today, I'm going to use the BK Beauty 105. Like I said, this is just the refillable packaging. It's nothing special, definitely lightweight and cheap plastic feeling. It does have the Valentino embossment in the middle there. This is scented, I think. Oh yeah, the same scent that we've definitely seen before. It's that very sweet floral, very similar to the Hermes blushes. This powder is working out really beautifully, actually. Pretty impressed with it so far. Now for the shades in this powder that are available, we have number 1, very light, number 2, light, 3, medium, 4, medium deep, 5, deep. So there are 5 shades in here. Not my most favorite spread of shade range, but not terrible. So the foundation, 40 shades, really good. I think that's what Fenty Beauty started off with when she did her foundation launch. There's room for improvement, not terrible, right? At least it's not just light, like how some Dior products can be. Didn't mean to shade Dior like that, but sometimes their shade ranges are not great for certain things, like base products sometimes. This applied beautifully to the skin. I actually think my skin looks really nice. It looks slightly mattified, but not overly flat. It does offer a slight radiance like it promises. I do think this is really stunning. The fragrance is definitely there as you apply it, but it's not going to sit on the skin long term where you are just, you know, moving your face around and smelling it still. It definitely dissipates as you apply it. Now let's get to the bronzer, which is the biggest shade mishap of this entire line. I too picked up the bronzer in the exact same way, which is basically the refill only. It also came in a weird little clutch purse thing. For the bronzer, this is a refill. This is the Go Clutch on the Move. Get this, universal bronzer. Exactly 1 shade of this. Not excited about that at all. You guys know, I mean, if the foundation launch was as expansive as it was, am I missing something here? Like, it's definitely not impressive at all to see just this shade as the bronzer. There's definitely people that won't be able to use that as a bronzer. So it's really, really disappointing to see just that and marketed as a universal 1 shade only type product. Before we apply it, it is the same price as the powder refill as well. It's a buildable matte formula that's infused with the brand's signature Roma Light Complex, inspired by the light of Rome. Also using a BK Beauty brush, this is the 107. Okay, I got some pigment there. Let's hope it blends out like it says. Because that was like, uh-oh. So you can see it's on there. I'm still gonna blend it out a little bit further, but it is buildable for sure. That is true. It is matte with a little bit of a radiance. That is true. Just be careful when you apply this one, because when you pick up the pigment, you gotta blend right away. Oh my gosh, my baby hairs. Attack of the baby hairs. It sort of reminds me of the Gucci, where the Gucci is really blendable too, but it's not like the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Matte, the Marc Jacobs ones. They blend a little bit easier. The Gucci one is still stunning, but it has a teeny bit more stiffness to it, which makes the blending a little bit tricky. I have a little bit of redness peeking through right here, so it looks like I dragged my bronzer there, but I did not. But it is nice and warm. You just have to go a little light-handed with this one. Just make sure that you're going light, building as you go, and you'll be totally fine. We are looking quite bronzy. Let's keep that up. I'm actually going to use the blush next. This is like a dual eyeshadow or blush situation. It is in the shade number 3, Rosa Imazone. Zone? Oh my gosh. My Italian friends are gonna laugh so hard at me. Let me know the right pronunciation, please. Here's the compact for this one, a little bit more presentable to me. Again, similar to the eyeshadow compact. And there's a little bit of an interesting, do you see that? A little bit of a cylinder on the side. It's where the brush is, which is very interesting. So this little guy is hiding in the little top there. It's kind of cute. Anyways, this is the blush I picked up. It's kind of like a purpley pink. So this is actually a really beautiful cool toned pink. Has a nice sheeniness to it. It's just so, so pretty. Gonna apply the blush with my Sephora collection number 90. I think this has been renamed to number 94. I'll definitely link that below. This is a stunning blush. I do love it. I absolutely do. Very, very pretty, very, very easy to work with, and you can absolutely pick up a ton of product with this, so it is quite pigmented. Here's what it looks like all zoomed in there. So again, this little plate here is actually the glossy plastic packaging that's similar to the top. So it's not that cheaper looking packaging in this one randomly. So we do have a little bit of some inconsistencies with that, but yeah, this is what this one looks like. Love the V embossment. It's actually fairly deep in the powder as well. I'm actually going to go in with a little bit more of this V lighter for my highlight, just because there's no powder highlight in this line yet. So let's try that out a little bit. Maybe I'm going to ruin my entire look by doing this, but hopefully not. This is going to add a very, very subtle glow on the top. Okay, not so subtle. It's still really beautiful though. Because this blush is a cool tone pink and it also has a bit of a sheeniness to it, I actually think it blends really beautifully with this highlight. So I'm actually not mad at this. This is really, really pretty. Lastly, let's talk about the lip products in this collection. There are only 2 lipsticks right now, one in a satin formula, one in a matte formula, and there's also what they call a midi lipstick size, which is a mini version of these. Now, the full-size versions come with a refillable tube part, so you can keep the casing and just buy the refillable for the bullet. The midi lipsticks don't look to be refillable. The midi lipsticks, $31.50 US, that's for the mini, $38.50 Canadian, $48.50 US for the full-size lipsticks, $59 Canadian for the full-size lipsticks. So I picked up one of each finish just to see how they would look. The first one is 101A Hot Beige. This is in the satin. And I'm going to pull this one out and see. Oh, see, this is what I mean. This is another, it's got to be the recyclability, you guys. I know I say this a little bit throughout the video, but maybe that's why the packaging is just not the best. This is, ooh, it looks like it was smushed a little bit in transport, but this is the satin lipstick. It does have the V embossed in the bullet as well. Absolutely stunning. So this is supposed to be hot beige. Ooh, it's definitely creamy, and it actually has about, I would say, light to medium opacity. You do have to get quite a few layers for it to look full opacity. So here we have hot beige. To me, this is quite a bit pinker than beige. So the name of this one, a little bit interesting. Next, let's talk about the matte. This is 102R Poudre, same packaging as well. And ooh, definitely matte. I'll show you guys this bullet as well. It too has the V embossed in the bullet itself and the same packaging style like I said. I do like the gold elements, that's very luxe. That red basing though is that lightweight packaging. This is a very fun baby pink. Look at that, very bright pink. This is Poudre. It's definitely a very hot, fun, electric pink. I'm thinking for my look today, I'm gonna go with the satin. Same fragrance though, not as potent, but it's still there, that sweet floral. I can already tell this one is quite lightweight, quite creamy, but it's like movable. You know what I mean? So if you put a mask on, game over for sure, but I don't find this one would, just my guess, I don't think it's gonna be as long lasting. I'm also going to be careful too because I do have Invisalign in, and if it's a movable product, it might go right onto my trays. What do you guys think of everything? I'm going to do a quick summary of everything here. The highlights of this collection to me, the blush, the powder. I do really like both of these. I think they're fantastic. I wish that the powder came in a compartment by itself without having to have the clutch purse thing, but I do think both of these are the top contenders. The foundation and the primer are next. This foundation has the perfect amount of matte. It is a semi-matte, which is the mattes that I can actually appreciate and I don't mind on my skin. As soon as it becomes a full matte, it's just not my most favorite finish, but this is really nice. I think the finish is slightly too warm, but I can absolutely still work with it. And the primer is really nice because it has that versatility. Its best function would probably be as the highlight or the illuminator, because as a primer, you gotta be a little bit light-handed for your base. I'd probably go in with a base that doesn't give you so much luminosity so fast. Next, we have the lipsticks. I'm going to actually fill you in on the matte formula later on. The satin one, though, it's definitely lightweight, it's definitely creamy, and I would say that it is on the more movable side. So they're still good, but I don't think so far they are the absolute top performers of this line. Next, I would say is the dual eyeshadow quad with the 4 on the top and the 4 on the bottom. A very innovative concept to me, something I haven't seen personally before, with the 2 base, the shimmers, and then the top row of colors. The matte is a tad patchy. Unfortunately, that is not something that I would want in a quad this expensive, but the rest of the shades are super stunning. I'm looking at the eye look now, and it looks okay, but I do think a little bit of a lighter matte would have made this excellent. Plus a smoother, less patchy formulation. Second last product, in my opinion, has to go to the bronzer. A, because the shade range is absolutely terrible. Why? B, I do think it's a really nice performing product. However, I do think the blendability could be a little bit better. So it's still really, really nice, but the fact that it's only 1 shade has pushed this down in my countdown quite a bit lower, because you're missing a huge portion of the market here, and I don't understand why they decided to go with 1 shade when a lot of the other portions of this line are quite expansive. Dead last is the mascara. Not only is it really lightweight packaging, and that could just be for the recyclability piece, the formulation itself is definitely not my favorite at all. Quite easy to be clumpy, a little bit of a sharper bristled wand, and it does do some volumizing and some separating, but as soon as you get a couple of layers in, you're being very, very cautious with the clumping factor. So this is something that you can absolutely avoid. I don't think you should buy it at all. Save your coin on that one. Probably shouldn't have worn olive with this whole look, but let me know your thoughts on this line down below. What are your favorite pieces? Anything at all interest you, or is this a big pass? Do let me know down below, and until my next one, take care and stay safe. Bye guys!